Hello and welcome. I am going to attempt to do a river table, but not a full-size like dining room table, more like a nightstand or a charcuterie board or something of that nature. I did attempt this once before. It was an epic fail. I did a lot of things wrong, but I've done some additional research and I hopefully have figured it out now. So one thing I didn't do before is prep the wood, and by that I mean fill in any of the little cracks and holes, because that produces a lot of bubbles if it's not sealed. So all I've done to this wood is I've sanded it. I purchased the wood. I'll put a link to where I actually got the wood, but I just did a sanding to smooth it out and get rid of any of the rough parts. And I love the way the wood looks, but I do need to fill in the cracks and crevices. So I'm gonna put these little cups down, and I've mixed up about 5 ounces of resin. It's probably more than I'll need, and I'm going to use that to fill in these cracks. Once it's actually cured, this resin, I will go back and sand this again to get back down to the natural wood grain, or at least to get some of this gloss off from the resin. But if you don't do this, at least what I experienced and from what I've read, it will cause a lot of extra bubbles in your table. Now this whole front pretty much has holes in it, so I'm going to do the entire top here. And all I'm doing is taking a little bit of my resin from the cup, putting it on the stick, and then just brushing the stick along. Another way to do it, I grabbed a foam brush too so I could show that way. You just get your foam brush wet with the resin and then use that to brush it on. The major difference here is that this foam brush will suck up a lot of your resin, so it will probably take you more. So it's really just personal preference. The one thing I do like about the foam brush is it makes it a thinner coat than dripping it. But when you have sections like this over here where it's deeper, like you actually have like a little hole, it's easier to use your stick and pop that in there. And this wood is quite dry, as you can tell, because it's sucking that resin up really quickly. And I'm just going to continue the same thing on this piece as well as this larger piece here. And then once that cures, I will flip it over and do the other side as well. I'm going to finish painting the resin onto the other pieces of wood, and I will be back. Okay, I have finished prepping my wood by sealing it, and I'm using these, what are these things called? Kettle balls, I believe. They're 10-pound kettle balls. I've just wrapped some tape around the bottom just so that they won't accidentally adhere to the wood, and I put the wood in a design that I've chosen for this project. And I am using a completely square mold. I had the Let's Resin one, but it has a slope to it, so it goes like that, and it's very difficult to get the piece out. It's a nice mold, but it wasn't working for me. So I did purchase this other mold, and it's made by Calenta. This is the company. Haven't used it yet, so I can't speak to whether or not it's any good, but I just had to put some, wow, my words are escaping me today, caulk. So I had to caulk each of the corners, like where the mold actually goes together and joins. And I did a water test on it to make sure it wasn't leaking. And I did put down, I sprayed some mold release just to be extra cautious. And I have mixed up for my first pour 18 ounces of resin And I made a color. I just used some blues and greens and golds and came up with this color. And it's now been mixed into my cups, and I've just separated the cups so that it'll be easier for me to pour. But this is the color I'm planning to use. So I'm going to just, first, I'm going to move that so I can get in this corner over here. And then I'll put it back on. And so I'm just going to pour the resin into the mold. Oh yeah, I do like the color. I was concerned whether or not I would like the color once it actually got in here, but I do like it a lot. So that's a positive. This is the first cup. I have 2 more. Now I was quite intentional, only mixing 18 ounces because I wasn't sure whether or not I would like the color, and that would then give me the ability to go in with a different color or some clear or what have you. Once this first layer sets, I can take these weights away. Typically you would use clamps. I just don't have a setup that I could put clamps, so the kettleballs was what I came up with as an alternative. You just want to make sure that they don't float the wood pieces. Okay, and so that's all the resin I have mixed up for this first batch. And I'm just going to use this really long silicone paddle to move the resin around. And another thing that's extremely important when you're doing this is to make sure that your table is level. Otherwise you're going to have a very lopsided looking whatever you make this into. And now I'm going to come in with my torch just to get rid of any bubbles. I'm just going to use my heat gun. I don't feel like the torch is doing it. And here's an extra tidbit of information I know you didn't ask for, but I'm going to share anyway. So I recently saw, I don't know if it was a TikTok or YouTube, where someone was touting that they figured out this incredible new way of getting rid of bubbles from resin, and it's isopropyl alcohol. And I've been using it for years, and it definitely is great at getting rid of bubbles, but the key here is it gets rid of surface bubbles. So as I was doing the heat, you can still see all these little dots. Those are bubbles underneath coming to the surface. The isopropyl alcohol is not going to bring them to the surface, it will remove them from the surface. So just be cautious and don't just go the route of 100% isopropyl thinking, oh, it's going to magically make your bubbles disappear. It does not. Now that I've done the heat, I will put a layer of isopropyl on top, because as those bubbles start to rise from that heat that I just put in, then the isopropyl should help to pop them. And then I'm going to actually allow that to burn, and by that I just mean dissipate, like go away. And it takes a couple of minutes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with denatured alcohol. And denatured alcohol will help give it more of like that glassy type of surface. And I'll do that in between each of my pours. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just showed you with the same color until I reach, the rim of the wood here. So I'm not going to record all of those. I'm sure it would bore you all to death. So I will just continue doing that, and when I get on my last pour, let's say, probably, then I'll start recording again. But all I'm going to do is mix my resin, tint it with the color. Hopefully I continue to get the color right, and so it's consistent, and pour. And I'm going to do, this is probably going to take me 10, 15 pours. I don't want to go too thick. I don't want to risk having any type of flash cure because I'm pouring too thick. It's a lot of resin, and the resin's not inexpensive, neither is the wood, so I don't want to wind up ruining any of those just because I'm trying to rush. So this will probably take me a week or two to finish all the pours, and once I get to the top, closer to the top here, then I will be back to show you all our progress. Fingers crossed this works out. So I will be back and we will see how this turns out. I've finally reached what should be my last pour, and I ultimately did switch to pouring 36 ounces at a time, and this is my 4th pour of 36 ounces. So hopefully this is enough to fill it to here. So I've just mixed up my 36 ounces. I've added my pigment, and I'm just going to finish my pour, making sure not to pour on top of the wood. And I'm going to use my stick just to swirl the resin around. Now, I have not actually reached the full top, so I will have to come back with, this looks probably to be maybe 12 ounces that I have left to fill. I went ahead and mixed up an additional 8 ounces of resin to hopefully be able to just fill this in now. Use my heat gun. Nice of purple. Okay, and now I'll let this sit for probably a week just to make sure it fully cures before I take it out of this mold. So I will see you then. I've let this cure for a few days, and now I'm going to demold it. So the first thing I'm going to do is peel off the silicone that I put on here. So it should just peel right off. Okay, and now I'm going to start removing these screws. So there's one, and here's another, and then there's also all across the bottom. So I'm going to unscrew those. I'm going to start with the ones on the top here. And then I'm just going to put them in a cup so I don't lose them. Alright, I'm going to flip it. It's very heavy. Okay, and then I'll start down in here with these. Alright, so I've taken out all the screws. And now I'm going to attempt to peel the sides off. And I did use a mold release on the mold, so hopefully that helps. And hopefully I don't have to keep picking it up and moving it. That one came off pretty easy. Only one so far. There we go. Try this one first. Yeah, that came off easy. Ow. Be careful. Alright, I'm gonna move these out of my way. And see if I can get this bottom piece. It most definitely is not coming off as easy as the other pieces did. I don't want to use anything that'll damage this, so maybe I'll try a skewer. Yes, there you go. You just have to get one little corner and then it comes off like cake. Okay. I actually had some leakage underneath, even though I had those weighted down. But that's fine, I'm gonna sand this all anyway. Okay, now that it's demolded, I am going to take this outside and sand it. And I'll just be using the standard sanding technique. And once I finish with that, I will be back. But it really turned out very pretty. So I will be back once I complete the sanding. Okay, I have finally finished sanding this, and then right after I finished sanding, all I did was put some of this butcher block conditioner, and it came out very well. And it actually worked really well on the resin here too. But I did sand it going through all the grades. So an 80, a 120, a 240, and I think I did all the way up to 1200, maybe even a 3000. Sorry, I'm like a week later trying to remember. But you definitely want to make sure you go through all the grades. And this is the side that I'm going to put the legs. So the side I'm planning to present is this side here. I think it turned out really pretty. I love this detail through here. Gives it a really cool effect. So and you can actually see all of my different pores here. But I purchased some legs a while back. For some reason I thought they were black and I could go spray paint them, but I'm not going to. They're actually silver, so they're just a steel point with this top. They're really long, so there's no way I'm going to be able to get all of the length in this setup that I have right now, but you will be able to see how I plan to attach the legs. And so they're so tall they're hitting my cabinet. Alright, so I'm planning to make it flush on the corner, and I'm going to grab the others. These are a lot taller than I had initially thought, but I'll find something to do with them. So my plan is to put them equal. Alright, let me see if I can raise this up. Yeah. And remove that so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So all you have to do for that is the legs come with screws. I just put them in a cup so I don't lose them. And then you'll just want to drill. And the easiest way typically to do it is to mark where you're planning to put them and use a drill bit to go ahead and start your screw hole a little. Now these are really good screws. They do have a pointed end, so you should be able to actually just use those. But you could also drill the hole first. So just to make sure that I keep it even, I'm planning to use the sides as my guide and putting them flush with the side. Now I did curve the edge a little, so I'm not going to actually put it 100% flush. They will have to come off just a little so that you can't see the leg on the edge right there. Alright, so this one's actually ready. I'm just going to go ahead and attach it to show you. So you just want to put your screw on, push that so it doesn't fall out, and there you have it. That's pretty much attached, but now you want to put in the rest of your screws. Alright, I'm sure no one wants to listen to me drill or even watch me drill, so I'm going to go ahead and finish putting all the legs on, and then I'll be back to show you the final product. And here's a look at the final product. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and press the bell to be alerted to future videos.